key. See if that helps. Okay. We've got 35 seconds. Oh, starting. Starting sounds better.
That sounds promising.
It does sound promising, doesn't it? We've got 30 seconds, so it'd be great if it worked in the last 30 seconds. When anybody can see us, say hello in the chat, and then we will be ready to go. I'm just going to check OBS, make sure that my mug is over the top. My mug is now over the top. I don't see it on my laptop yet, but I suspect we're live. Somebody in the chat, please tell us once we are live, and I will get this boring stuff off the screen and start talking to you about what's going on. Looks like the delay is at least 20 seconds here today. So anyway, watch the stream live. Live stream starting soon.
I am starting soon as well.
You are starting soon as well. So, oh no, I think it's just come live, because on YouTube I've got a preview of it. So let's just wait. I'm waiting. My thing is when I can see it on my laptop over there, I believe it exists as a thing. So I think we might be dealing with a moderate amount of delay here, which is okay. We can handle that. They'll start soon enough, I guess. Sure will. Tell us when you can see us. Just me talking to myself. So Rick, I think my laptop is not giving me a very good indication of whether we're live or not. Oh, we can see us. They can see us. Well, I can't. That's strange.
Yeah, I still don't have it live. It says starting soon.
And then they notice the live stream's broken. I don't think it's going to stay broken for long, guys. So, good evening, Stingray. Can you just confirm whether you can hear Rick, guys? Because all our indications is that it is working. We've had people saying I'm just sitting here talking to myself, which is, I guess, encouraging.
No, that was me saying you're sitting there talking to yourself. I was making fun of you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Rick. I like being made fun of. That's always good fun.
That's what I do.
Yeah, broken
First
stream.
bug in the RPG course, broken stream.
It won't be the last bug in the RPG course, Rick. So just looks like it's working to me. Refresh your browsers. It's not working. Rick, you're still not seeing it? Because I'm seeing it. I'm seeing it everywhere that I should be seeing it now.
No, I'm not seeing it. Still says starting soon for me.
Okay, 1 second. Our main character's dead already. They're taking the piss. Debug.log is streaming. Funny, everyone. So, what's the email to get the course code resent? Ben at GameDev.tv. Strange, because it is, everything here is saying that it is working. We've got good stream health. It's unlisted, but that shouldn't matter.
Unlisted.
Yeah, we've got one person watching.
The unlisted part should be just purely when you post it to YouTube.
Yeah, I'll pop it public just in case.
So
URL is there. It's live now. We've got 2 watching. Shouldn't be a delay on it. It's definitely live, but my other laptop, which is my test case, is definitely not. Before you continue, consistent with protection laws, yada yada, Google terms and conditions. Wish I knew what else I could do. Okay, I'm going to stop the stream on. It's fine on OBS. Back on our control panel. The stream's popped offline. I'm not worried about that. It's come back online. And hopefully the chat will light up with success messages any second now, and we will be off. All good. We're seeing an all good. I have coffee. Wow, it formatted that funny. All right, so why is my stream not on here? Still saying nothing? It still says starting soon.
Yes, still says starting soon. It says starting at the time.
Yep.
Yeah, and the time's already come and gone.
I'm just making a few changes to the settings. It says you're live. It says the stream health is good. I'm just making a few changes to the... Definitely seeing it here. Can you just ask in the chat, Rick, if people are seeing it? Because...
Oh, yeah. There's. I'll ask again, but anyone seeing the stream?
Can you just ask in the chat, Rick, if people are seeing it? Because...
Oh, there's a Daniel Harrison. Daniel can see us. There we go.
Again, oh, people can. Some people can see
it.
it.
That's the exact name of my brother-in-law. Is that you, my brother-in-law, Daniel Harrison?
Cool, Daniel. It's good that you can see us. I have no idea why.
Oh, there's a Daniel Harrison. Daniel can see us. There we go.
Oh,
now I can hear myself coming through your speaker back into me, Ben.
That's going to happen. I can turn off the preview of the stream. I think we're starting to stream now. I think it's taking a long time to go through Google. We chose Google because they're supposed to have a good infrastructure. It's definitely taken a while to go through, but I think we might be live in a minute. Refresh. Yeah, try refreshing your browsers, exactly.
Yeah, I've had this problem in the past with... Oh, there we go. I think I see something. Huh. Yeah, the refresh is what helped me there. Oh, there we go. Okay.
You can see but can't hear anything. Okay, well, I'll keep talking.
I can also see just feedback on what I can see in the stream. I can see the... on your screen, I can see the stream screen, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, that'll go. That's historical. I mean, once I actually get going, it's going to be nice and neat, and I'll just have the chat and you, and I won't even bother showing the stream. Yeah, it'll all be tight once we are going and working properly. We just need to get everybody to confirm that they can see what's going on. What I'll do now is I'm going to switch over to the live stream slideshow and just see... You can tell me when that happens on your stream. So you should see Early Access Live Stream 1. And that should be what everybody's getting. But still not seeing it on my laptop. Tell me when you see the slide, the dragon slide.
Just then, dragon slide just came on.
Oh, it did? Okay. And you can hear me on your machine as well, can you? Because if you can, then it looks like we are live properly.
Let me turn down... so actually, let me try to get you through that other one.
Maybe put some headphones on, or if you need to, just so it doesn't...
Yeah.
It's really difficult to test this.
Good thing we're not teaching how to set up a live stream on YouTube.
I think so.
Maybe one day. Now, can you say something for me?
Okay, so here I am. I'm on the initial slide. I was going to overview what's happening. People are saying they can't see anything. I have absolutely no idea why, because Google says everything is in good shape. It's all been tested before. Refreshing, I'm guessing Ben's pen is green. Ben's gone. I should still be here. Yeah, what are you seeing, Rick?
I can see now. I can see you looking at the YouTube page, the web page. I can see me.
Have you tried turning it off and on again? I love that one. That's always a good one. And when I switch over to the Torchlight 2 page on the left there, just tell me when you see that. Loud and clear. Okay, all good. Refresh and click small box if in window. I wonder what that means. Refresh and click small box if in window.
So I see Torchlight now.
You see Torchlight. Okay, so it looks like we're going. I'm not confident we're going for everybody. I would like to be a bit more confident that it's working for everybody. So, all right, I'm going to stop watching it and worrying about the other screen. We'll let the community tell us. Guys, can you see the Torchlight 2 screen on my browser and you hear me okay? And also, can you hear Rick? Say hello, Rick. Say a funny word, Rick, some random word. That they
a random word would be crikey or struth. How are those for good random Aussie words?
Just pick one of those.
Okay. Crikey.
There you go. So if you're hearing what Rick is saying, can you type what he said into the chat window? Ah, there you go. So that means that people can actually hear what you're saying as well. Okay. Fine. Random Aussie words, crikey, crikey. Guys, it looks like we are up and streaming. So thank you very much for your patience getting going here. Early access live stream 1 is what we have. I don't know why that took so long to get going. We'll start it like 15 minutes early next time and, and then get to this. So just want to tell you what will be covered in this stream. So what we're going to talk about is a few things, 5 things, and then ask questions, answer questions. Mainly we're going to answer questions. So we're going to tell you a little bit about what's going to be covered in the course, and in the game. So there's 2 things going on here, right? We've got a game that we're building, and we've got to keep the scope as tight as we can so that as 3 people we can actually deliver it in a reasonable amount of time. And then there's going to be a course built to teach you how to make a similar game for yourselves. So we'll pitch you our current game concept, where we've got with that. We've got loads of design docs and ideas, and we want to get your feedback on that. We also invite people to come in live into Zoom. So if anybody wants to do that, it's always actually good to have a participant from early on. So Rick, maybe you could give them the Zoom chat room, and if anybody wants to come in, they're welcome. It's always good fun to have another voice in there. We'll get some feedback on the art direction, discuss community contribution. So once we've given you some ideas about the art direction and some feedback, we say, well, maybe let's talk about the early stages of getting you guys to contribute art and assets to the game, but really very early stage conversation there, just assessing interest. And then we'll spend our time answering questions. We'll aim for the stream to last for an hour with half an hour for questions at the end. And that's it, really. So Zoom is a chat system, so what we can do is if anybody wants to actually chat, then we can get you a link. And copy URL, and what you need to do is go here, and it will bring you with voice and video into a chat room with us. So only if you want to be seen and heard, and up in the top right of my screen along with Rick, then do that. Few administrative questions for the RPG. We over on the community site, let me just bring that up in a different tab for a minute. We have made an area for the RPG, and there's a locked early access. Hey, there's Lucy. My God, that's on. You are the person I least thought would dive in and show your face this early in the live stream, Lucy. So thank you for being here. That's incredible. So Lucy, can you hear me through this method? Can you talk? I'm not hearing you, so she's probably being silent to try and. And then we have Dave as well. So hey, Dave.
Nope, Dave's gone.
So I can't hear Lucy. So Lucy needs to click down the bottom left. Oh, I can hear you now. So this is Lucy. This is the Lucy that is here on our site. That is Lucy in real life. Well done, Lucy. I'm really impressed. She's showing her face to everybody. This is pretty cool. So somebody's got me really loud. That's probably you, Lucy. If anybody does come in live, they need to have my volume, the stream volume, really quiet. Otherwise, that will happen. So we've created a section, and there's a locked early access part. If you want to become part of this early access group on the community, then you need to basically message Lucy and tell her, well, the easiest way is to change your forum email to the same email you used for Kickstarter. You do that by clicking on your profile in this cog here under preferences and switch your email on the forum to whatever you used on the Kickstarter. Then we will match you against that email and add you to the group. Another way to do it is to come to the forum, to go to Lucy's profile here, and I'll paste the link and just say, hey Lucy, could you add me to the forum? Do that from the forum. And excuse the way it's formatting that, but do it from the forum and Lucy can add you to the early access group. So that's one thing. Thank you to all of those who did late upgrades or found a way through with difficulties with Kickstarter payments, so that's all good. And let's crack on. Let's crack on with the agenda. Dave, hello, thank you for joining us. And where are you in the world, and can you hear us? Can we hear you as well? So we can all see Dave.
If you haven't used Zoom before, there's a little microphone down in the bottom left. What looks like you're mutant, Dave.
Yeah, down the bottom left of Zoom. It's ridiculous because you have to click mute to be heard. And then you click the up arrow and you choose a device.
Microphone down the bottom left. What looks like you're mutant, Dave.
Yeah, down the bottom left of Zoom. It's ridiculous because you have to click mute. I'm actually going to mute myself so I don't come through several ways. There will be a bit of a delay.
You on the live stream.
And also, yeah, we need to keep you quiet, otherwise
we'll have to... pumping out through our headphones on Zoom. Interesting. This is great. We're doing.
Yeah, we're going to need to mute Dave. Rick, is there a way of muting Dave? So guys, what we're showing here is if you want to dive in live like this, it's great to have you. But what's happening is that the live stream's feeding back, so he needs headphones, right? Rick, if this happens and we don't have any control, is it possible to kick people or to mute them? Do you have the facility to do that? Rick, have you got the facility to either, here, Inception, yeah, to either mute Dave or mute people who have that problem? See if you can do that.
Okay, so I can't hear you guys now. Let's do another test on this. Dave, can you hear us? Ben, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. And Dave's got himself some headphones, so we're all good. And if necessary, we got some control there. So great. Thanks for joining us, Dave. Where are you in the world?
In Colorado.
Colorado, cool. So we got somebody from Colorado. Fantastic.
And I might be switching accounts, so you can ignore me for a while.
No worries. Anybody's welcome to dive in like Dave is, but as I say, just like he needed to do, you've got to have headphones. Otherwise, you've seen what happens. We only need to demonstrate that once. Okay, great. So let's talk about what's going to be covered in the course stroke game firstly. Firstly, really the course. I just want to give a little bit of a heads up on the scope of the course. We can't cover everything. We're going to do everything on screen in that we're going to assemble the game fully from the ground on screen in front of you guys. So you won't be missing anything there. But there are going to be things we need to bring in. We're going to need to be bringing in art assets. I'm not going to sit there and fumble trying to doodle them all. We're going to need to bring in some play tuning that Rick does as a designer. And we may even be bringing in a certain amount of pre-made coding assets. Because obviously there's not going to be time to go through every single little step of that. So if you've got any questions about the scope, then ask in the chat. I'll draw you just a quick diagram, I think, which gives me, just to give you an idea of what we're thinking about in terms of where our courses will be, hopefully in 2020, and how the RPG fits in with that. So we've got a very loose, and this, excuse my oval, it's not going to be oval at all. We've got a very loose 2020 vision, which is as follows. We have a pie of courses. We have a business and design area. We're going to have a development, which we already have. And then there's going to be an art and sound area. Now, we've already got, of course, a couple of courses here. We've already got in one of the development slices down here, we've got the Unity course, right? And that starts from beginner content with Unity. We've then got a load of other courses we will add to development. They don't exist yet. And in art, we've already got one significant course here, which is the Blender course, which takes up that. There'll be other courses here and here. We don't know what they are yet. And we'll also be giving you courses on design, right? So, but they don't exist yet. We're making the RPG before all these beginner courses exist because it's the right time to do it. You want it, we want it, it's a good time. The RPG sits over the top of this whole pie. So the only places that we'll be taking it, that you'll be able to get the content from the very ground up will be Unity, as in coding, C# coding and using Unity, and Blender. From there, we'll take you from the ground up. For everything else, you're sitting on top of this, and we're going to have to bring in a certain amount of pre-made work, obviously, to get the thing done. So I just wanted to make that clear. Google Hangout and said Zoom looks pretty pants. Yeah, Zoom, it's all right. You'll see that it's pretty cool if we need to be annotating things like Rick's screen and that sort of stuff. It's actually quite a cool system. So bear with us on the Zoom. I was skeptical about Zoom too. Rick convinced me that it's cool, and we've been using it to good effect. Most of the 2020 content will be Unity focused. It's using Unity, not Unreal, Jeremiah. And Eric, yeah, the 2020 content will be Unity heavy because it's a really good choice, but we will certainly be using Unreal for game engine architecture, and we'll be using no engine at all for certain things, like for shaders. When we do shaders, we'll be using things like Shader Toy, etc. So there's going to be not only Unity, but a lot of fundamentals and a lot of teaching where we don't use any particular engine and use sites like this to help you explore concepts. So that is that. I won't show you that. So you know how to get your access to this early access group here. Either change your email or ask Lucy, and I pasted in the chat. If you need any copies of links, just ask people, or we'll add them to the video at the end. So we'll be assembling everything. What we're doing right now as a team is with Rick's main leadership here, because he's the guy who's the game designer in this team. There's 4 of us. There's Rick. You're doing what, Rick?
So me, looking at the high-level direction, I've made a bunch of games in the past and helped indies a bunch. So my focus is very much on helping indies be remarkable. So I'm looking at how we're making this as a product that makes money and that's remarkable. What's the design? What are the mechanics? How do we coordinate ourselves as a team, giving input into that? Although, Ben, that's going to be mostly what you're looking into. And then particularly when it comes to the pointy stage of what's what's fun. I don't like the word fun. I look more at what's the player experience and how we're matching that. But what's working, what people like, what's the playtest feedback, what do we need to do to improve the game, what's our priorities in terms of scope. So all those nefarious things to do with being a designer, which is basically saying, let's get a great product that people love.
Fantastic. Thanks, Rick. So I made you full screen for a second there so people could see what was going on.
I saw that. Thank you for that. I felt that made me feel a bit special.
So Rick is design. And that's the designer part of that messy diagram I drew you. Rick will be heading up this part. Sam will be heading up the development side, and Michael, who's on the stream as well, or at least he's on as a chat participant, will be heading up the art side. So then I sit parallel to all of that on the side, and I'm focused on generating the course from this, so and overseeing the whole thing. But my main thing is how do we teach you guys all these complicated interrelating concepts. So that's it. So what we've done is we're going to be about 2 weeks ahead, or Rick, Mikey, and Sam will be about 2 weeks ahead on the production of the actual game, and yeah, there's no reason you couldn't port this to Unreal. A lot of the things we're going to be covering are going to be generic architectural decisions and how to design the game and how to tune the game and stuff like that. So it's the engine is kind of at the end of the stream. It could be swapped out. Absolutely. So yeah, we're going to be a week ahead in terms of making the game, and then we will start. I'm planning to start teaching it in the next couple of weeks, so that we're always a couple of weeks ahead. So that's that. So the live stream died on you while Rick was talking. Really, we would hope that Google is very robust. So I'm just going to do a couple of things my end to try and... what was wonderful? Who missed out? The design. Oh, the design courses. Yeah. So Ben Pearson, you're seeing in the chat here. He actually introduced me to Rick in the first place. So thank you very much, Ben, for that.
Ben. He was actually saying because Christelle was saying she missed. It dropped out while Rick was speaking, and Ben was saying it was wonderful. That was the best part.
No, okay.
Oh, no, that was the best part. That was me who said that. Okay.
Great. And are people generally connected now? I think we're getting the feeling that the stream is working. It strangely isn't working on my laptop over there at all, which is spooking me. But the general consensus is that it's working, right? I've just closed my laptop because it's sitting there showing a dead screen is really spooking me. So
yeah, I can see it. And you know, as time goes on, this is what we're going to see as we build out the course and build out the game is trying things, being okay with things not working exactly the way they're supposed to, improving it and getting better and better, which is iterative game design philosophy, isn't it? Where you don't expect to have it perfect at the start. And most game design and games take 10, 20, 30, 40 different attempts of tweaking and building and changing until it gets there. So we're proving that out with this live chat system as well.
Absolutely. And I've just turned off my classical music right now at the expense of your beautiful face for just a couple of seconds, just in case it's making anybody harder to hear. Good. So what we need to do is just show you what we've been doing with the course. And one of the ways is that these are the documents. In fact, why don't we start with giving them an overview of how we even pull together as a team. Is there any reason we can't show them the sprint planning board? Rick, can you just have a quick look ahead at that and make sure we're okay to show them that? There's nothing on there that would be sensitive or concerning. I'm pretty much in the spirit of openness here, so I'm happy to show everybody.
Yep, can do.
And so we're just in terms of one of the first things you're going to want to know when you're working like this is presumably, in fact, let's have a bit of a poll. I may even be able to fire off a poll here.
Yeah, let's get some feedback.
Yeah, let's get some feedback. I want to know, and I'll just see if I can quickly set up this poll. Not my forte using this guy, but it is possible somewhere to do this. What I'm going to ask you guys, so that that is horrible.
Well, something went bad just then, Ben.
So something went really bad. We back without the really badness?
Yep.
I think we're back without the really badness. Okay, so what I was going to say is what I want to do is get a poll going to ask you guys a couple of questions. So let's see if I can find where that is. It's not a card. Yes, it is. So
I think we can, sorry, just to answer your question from before, in terms of the sprint planning, I think we can filter by the RPG specifically and have a look at that. It'll show more structure. There's not a huge amount of content in there at the moment, but I think that'd be a good starting point.
Okay, cool. So I'm creating a poll. You can see what I've just created there. Will you be working alone, is the word I'm asking for, on your RPG? Because that will help me to focus the conversation a little bit on whether we tell you about the tools that we are using. So someone beatboxing. Yeah, no. Yeah, team of 5. We are doing agile very much. We'll show you that in a moment. So I've fired up that poll. I'm not sure where I get the results on it. Let's have a look. Are you seeing that poll coming up, Rick?
Not yet.
Okay. It's somewhere in my live streaming control room.
Did that come up in the live chat?
Can you try and issue the poll? I've added you as a co-author of the poll, so they don't want to see me messing around with this sort of stuff.
Yeah, I don't see. There's no polling option. They probably don't want to see you and I talking about how to make a poll work either.
No, exactly. So if you have got the relevant permissions, Rick, if you could do that. Otherwise, what we'll do is we'll just ask them in the chat. So let's ask them in the chat anyway, guys. Can you tell me whether you'll be working alone on your RPG with somebody else, or whether you're just not sure yet? That would be really useful to know. Yeah, I'm not going to sit and fiddle in there.
So, yeah, I think probably our biggest impact today is going to be asking people to type in their questions into the chat window, and then there will be a bit of a delay. We'll see them, and then 20 seconds later we will see. Oh,
exactly. So we've just had a whole ton of feedback. Look, that works even easier and simpler than the poll. So okay, the majority of you guys are starting alone by the looks of it. At least is what I'm taking from this, and then you're probably going to be ramping up with other people. So look, we're not going to spend too much time then talking about how we've gelled together as a team. We'll just tell you that we use tools like Trello, which is a Scrum board that allows us to determine all the little bits of work we're doing and who's doing what. And the other tool, of course, that we're using a lot is things like Skype or Zoom, and we are using Google Docs a lot, Google Slides, Google Spreadsheets, etc.
And if we're in the spirit of asking questions, I'd love to also ask a question in terms of what people are interested in from an educational point of view, in terms of the course, the breakdown of development, like here's how to code, and the breakdown of design, here's how to make a great RPG, here's how to think about the mechanics, about the story, about the flow. Just so if in the chat window, again, if you can say maybe percentage of interest, hopefully that's not too obscure. If it's, I'm just here for the coding, it would be 100%. Development, and if you're half and half, be 50-50. So just give us a feel for that, so again, so we know how much emphasis to be putting in the course, and what the split would be.
Cool. Thanks, Rick. That would be great.
Awesome.
Yeah, we use Slack a little bit. We do most of our communication through Trello itself, actually. We're getting like 50-50 code design, 50-50. Okay, pretty interesting. That's cool. That's good for us, Rick.
That helps a lot.
All of the above, including art, 90 coding, 10 art. Okay, thank you. This works really well in the chat. It's really nice and live, and I like it. Okay, so what is this?
You guys shaping what course you get as well. So this is super useful.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Cool.
Yep. So you may be getting more than one course, but you guys already know that, right? You may well be getting a design course that and an RPG project course. So the design course is in that lower layer of this pie, and we give you a course in here somewhere that we give you for free, of course, as Kickstarter backers, and then we also put the RPG on the top of the pie. So it's a layer on top. It's literally like icing. Okay, Rick, of the documents that we've got there, where would you like to start in terms of introducing them to the game concept?
I think the one pager, do you have the one pager fired up? Because that was the first thing that we did as a team. We looked to see what are we doing at the high level. And so this is a little bit of us sharing with you guys how to go about starting your own RPG. If you're thinking about it at the moment, the thing that, thank you for the crikey. I don't know why. That's a bit random. So the thing that's super important for me at this early stage, like really, really important for RPGs in particular, is that you don't start making a movie. And so there'll be 3% of you that get really angry at me right now, because I've had these conversations with people, is a lot of the times you're like, cool, my RPG is all going to be about this epic journey, and here are the characters, and here's the backstories, and I've gone and created a comic book, and I've been thinking about this story since age 7. This is going to be magnificent. And that's great. But in our particular philosophy that we're following, story supports your experience. Story supports gameplay. So the approach we're going to take is being very much focused on what's at the high level in terms of experience. And you can see Ben's got up the document here. We talk about just at the summary level, what's going on in your RPG, what's going on in the game. So as a team, we needed to get consensus on that. If it's just you guys as solos, then consensus with oneself, but bouncing to get feedback from others. Our community is a great place to do that. And for us, we've decided at the high level to go for, well, when I say decided, everything's open for you guys to tell us you like it, you don't like it.
That'll be a question in just a minute, right?
Yeah. So if I say in here we've decided, I just mean as a starting point or as draft number one. You guys can shape everything that we do. So we're looking at making something that's funny, that's absurd. Then you can see the Monty Python references here. Because for us delivering this game, we need to make sure that it is core and I don't use the word generic, but it's central enough that you guys can take it and spread it in your own direction and give your own flavor to it. But we need to make sure that we've got something remarkable and interesting about it itself. And so as a team, we thought the best place to do that is not in the core mechanics. We don't want to go and be weird in the core mechanics because then you guys will have to follow how we create the weirdness. But interesting and noteworthy in terms of the flavor, the tone of the characters, the story, the dialogue. So in terms of comedy, that's our goal here, to make something that's funny. And you can see the doc that Ben's showing. Sorry, Ben.
No worries. No, that's great. Thank you, Rick. So I guess we ought to get some feedback on that. So we our thoughts are, look, what Rick's alluding to there is also what Scott Rogers talks about in this book in Level Up, which is a good book on design. It's one I'm reading now to catch up. And one point of weirdness of 3. So let's pick one of the following. Let's either make the world weird or the characters weird or the activities that those characters perform weird. Not all 3, right? So if you do more than one, you end up in a Dune situation where you've got weird characters in a weird world doing weird things and we can't relate to them. So we figured to keep the risk of the project down for us and for you, that making a weird world or weird characters is difficult. It's harder to do than making standard worlds and standard characters. So we're going for weird actions. And as soon as you think of weird actions and that type of era, you think of, well, I think of Monty Python or King Arthur. And so we're suggesting to you guys that we keep it really light, that it's a kind of lighter, funny world, and that our hero is probably a little bit incompetent, and it's all light-hearted and humorous, and that's what we're suggesting. So I guess we should just... Rick, so go on.
Sorry, Ben. On that point, I'd love to know, again, from you guys in the chat, just simple yes or no. Have you heard or seen Monty Python and the Holy Grail? Like, is that something that you're familiar with? Just so we know if we're using any references in the future, what percentage of people are going to be like, I don't know what you guys are talking about. So
yeah, just a yes or no in the chat, please, for Monty Python. Yes or no, in terms of have you heard of it? Okay, I think we're going to get a lot of yeses. Okay. So 1 or 2 no's is absolutely fine. You'll soon hear of it. And we're getting generally good resonance on that. And then now we are going to ask a different question. What do you think about us theming our game like this? I mean, obviously, this is a stupidly early screenshot mock-up, but a general funny, one name of a game you came up with, Rick, was what? Was it
I had Mopey Dragons and the Holy Veil. I'm also liking...
Let me write that out. Mopey Dragons, or Mopey Dragon, and the Holy Veil.
Clumsy Dragon. That's maybe we can get some thoughts on this as well. Grumpy, Mopey, or Clumsy Dragon. And the point about having dragon in the title is it's very cliche, and we're making a game that's making fun of ourselves and of RPGs. So to have a cliche as a dragon, but then to have a twist where the dragon's not exactly what you expect, I think could be very interesting.
Yeah, so I quite like this Mopey Dragon and the Holy Veil. It's, or something along those lines. Cool, it's a good start. Grumpy, they like Grumpy, but the dragon instead of the knight, etc. So, again, let's just have a yes-no coming back on. Is this basic concept that it's Diablo meets Monty Python? That's what we're really talking about here. I'll write it up. It's Diablo meets Monty Python. Or it's Monty Python in a Diablo world or vice versa.
Yep. Monty Python in a Diablo style game. And when we say Diablo from this point on, just to be super clear, we don't mean the particular darkness of it or the monsters of it. We mean the gameplay.
Yeah.
So this is something that the Kickstarter was very clear in terms of order of priorities. There's people who want free roaming cameras, people who want MMOs. There's a whole lot of different interests. But as the core that you guys can then branch out from, the core is fixed camera, third person perspective, that isometric, diametric view, and click to move if you're using the mouse, but also controller support. So that's what we mean when we say Diablo, not necessarily the story or the flavor or the darkness of it.
Cool. Danny, you're saying yes and no. So the no means you've got some feedback that's going to be helpful to us. Not a fan of Monty Python. I mean, so we're not going to have 100% of people being a fan of any particular type of humor, etc. So my character to badass level, not sure comedy angles allow some powerful characters. Okay, good feedback. So we're definitely going to let your characters get powerful one way or the other. We just want to keep the whole thing light. And classic third-person RPG. Right. So in terms of a prototype game or an archetypal game, Diablo, we shouldn't set your expectations on building Diablo. So when we say Diablo, we just mean a third-person isometric RPG. Rick has found a much better template game because the problem with Diablo, of course, is it's hundreds of man-hours of work, and we haven't got that. So Torchlight 2. Shall I fire up Torchlight 2 just for a second and give them a quick flavor for it?
Yeah, I think that's good. It's a little bit old now. It's not brand spanking new off the press, but Torchlight 2, I think, has the simplicity of the core and also the look and feel of it, and also the level design. There's a lot about it that feels really nice. Now, I'm sure you guys, if you're RPG players of action RPG, third-person RPG games, you've got tons and tons of reference point and examples and things that you like in particular. And for us getting there and saying Torchlight 2, as a team internally, it's allowing us to get on the same page in terms of, are we going to make it, super dark and monsters and demons and stuff, more Diablo? That doesn't really feel like what we're making. So Torchlight 2 has a good example of some art reference and some core mechanic reference. So that's where we're going to start. But we're not cloning, we're not copying, we're not stealing. That's not what we're up to. It's just a reference point so we know where to deviate from.
Somebody's suggesting Night Shift. I haven't seen that. Thank you for the suggestion, but there it is. So, yeah, I mean, we're in exactly the same realm here as to what we're thinking about. This type of level of art complexity at the maximum. Yeah, we're on the same page, guys. That's what it sounds like. So can you just say yes or no in the chat whether you want me to fire up Torchlight 2 or and just get Rick to talk through it for a minute, or do you want to just look at that yourself offline? There is a free demo on Steam, by the way.
That's another reason that I like it, because there's a free demo. You guys can have a look at it and know what we're talking about without having to buy it or necessarily watch videos.
So there it is. I'll give you the link to it, although you'll have to... Yeah, download demo. So this is the right page. Yep, why not? Okay, so we'll open up briefly. Rick, I will play it. Rick, your voice will be relatively quiet. I will turn the game's sound down.
Yep. Yeah, so just a couple of things I'm seeing in the chat. What we're not trying to do with Torchlight 2 is follow the character dialogue. Specifically, in our game, part of the Kickstarter was having a branching dialogue. And I think that's part of the funny, absurd Monty Pythonish direction we're going to, so that you as a player or the player can choose, do I say something aggressive or something silly or something honorable? So the Torchlight 2 dialogue system is different to what I've got in mind for how we would take this game.
Okay, Rick. So I need people to confirm. Yeah, we won't play it for long. Don't worry, Ben. I need you to confirm you can see Torchlight and that you can still hear Rick right now. So say right now, Rick.
I can see Torchlight now. Yep.
Yeah.
20 seconds behind on average at the moment, Ben.
Okay, that's cool. I'm happy with that. And I've turned Torchlight's sound down and I've turned its resolution down. And because it's a potentially full screen app, I've had to make sure you guys can see it. It looks like OBS is capturing it. So let's get in. New game.
Yeah, it looks good. The other question, just while everyone catches up to Twilight, the other question that I saw was, will we be able to put our own experience and characters and mood and tone on top of from the course? Absolutely, yes. So what we're doing is giving you guys an example of one particular execution. And what we're trying to do our goal is to get this game on Steam Early Access at the end of the course, to show you guys every step to get a game good enough to get on Steam Early Access, rather than just saying, here's a little bit of the mechanics to go off and do whatever. but you guys can take it any direction at all, any direction with the flavor, with the player experience, with the tone, with the art, with the core mechanics. We're going to show you what we do, and we're going to show you rules and principles and strategies and best practices, but you guys can take it any direction you want. So no need to worry about if we end up doing a particular, funny type of game. You absolutely do not have to do a funny game. You'll just need to go and craft your conversations and craft your interactions and craft your experiences the way that you want them to be. Is that cool? Hopefully that answers the question.
That's cool. And I'm also back, which is cool, back in the chair. And actually, when everybody was saying that to get the stream working, you need to click the box in the middle, I now know what they're talking about. I've gone to my laptop, and for all this time, it was sitting there with that box in the middle, unclicked, despite their advice.
One thing I'd like to point out is we're likely not doing this level of depth in the character select. Character select is going to be I'm not going to call it a stretch goal because we've committed to it in the Kickstarter, but in terms of the actual execution of it in depth in the game that we're making, probably won't be to this depth, but we'll show you guys how to build this sort of stuff.
Yeah, give you the fundamentals for this and let you customize at least one attribute of the character, right? So that skin color or something like that, something simple that once you know the coding architecture for that, then you're going to be able to do it for more complicated attributes just by adding time. In general, we want to show you the thin slices. We want to show you the depth of how to do everything without the breadth, because we can't build the whole game in depth and breadth. So given the choice, we go into depth in one area, and then it becomes your project to build that out to make your game. So Zorg here. Pet name Barney. Zorg and Barney are going to go on their little thing. We probably won't be having an NPC like this dog. I'm going to go casual because I'm probably going to suck otherwise.
And can you choose if you haven't clicked already, can you choose the Berserker?
I'm afraid I've clicked already.
Okay. Oh no, there you go. Yeah, okay, cool.
They're delayed.
This guy's going to be range. And here's just giving you guys full, open up the curtains and show you what we're up to at the moment. Having discussions right now about how the guys, when I say that I mean Ben and Sam, implement the melee attack versus the ranged attack. And we're starting to get into those design decisions already of, do we lock on, do we click? You see in Torchlight, it's click on the enemy and then he makes it happen. What happens if you do melee? What happens if you do range? So we're right in that stage and not yet figured out the difference between ranged and melee, I think.
Fantastic. So few things here then. A couple of things happened there. We had a selection screen. We'll show you that in very basic form. We faded to a loading screen. You'll see loading screens. You'll be able to customize your fade lengths. Then there was a full motion video that came in there. That is fairly trivial to do. We're not obviously going to show you how to produce that type of pre-rendered video like that. But by the end of the course, you will be able to insert a video like that for telling the story if you want to. And the other thing we fiddle with is the options dialog. There will be this type of options dialog, very much like this, resume, quit, settings. In settings, you will have, I think, probably a little bit less detail than that. We don't really need to expose quite as much as this. So it'll be as like a stripped down version of this. But in the Unity course in Glitch Garden, we've already done this type of music, audio stuff. And we will have the basics that are necessary to make this thing run on a PC. So then we're in. We will choose a UI paradigm. In fact, Rick, we've already started to look a little bit at UI paradigm. Should we switch over and just show them what we're thinking there briefly?
Yeah, we can. Sure. You mean for the on-screen HUD?
Yeah, for the on-screen hub. Where is that? That'll be in the GDD or on the T.
In the GDD, I have an incredibly wonderfully ugly diagram to show you guys the extent of diagramming at this point in the project.
So we've gone OCD with our TLAs, our three-letter acronyms that end in DD. So we've gone OCD on the TLA GDD thingies. So what we've done is we've gone for GDD for Game Design Doc, CDD for Course Design Doc, TDD for Technical Design Doc, and ADD for Art Design Doc. And if we do anything else with an ADD or the DD on the end, you can shoot us. So where are we looking here, Rick?
In the GDD. I'm seeing you 20 seconds behind, so I'm going to guess what you're doing.
No worries. So there you go. Here you've got some idea of a.
If you go down to combat, so click on in the table of contents, click on combat. It'll take you down to there. So for us at this point, we're using a lot of images from just wherever we find them on the internet, and if you go further down, oh, that one's fine, but I did a mock-up. If you want to show my excellent designer art down to combat. So this is what I created just recently. Look at that artwork. Please be impressed. And it's really just very early, very quick showing. We've had some discussion about rather than having things up in the top left or top right, we're looking to have a HUD. When I say HUD, I mean heads up display. I might also call it UI or user interface. Generally, I call HUD anything that lives on the screen all the time. And then I call the UI anything like menus or pop-ups, things that come on top of that. And at the moment, we're looking just very standard health and mana. And at this stage, it's probably going to be energy rather than mana, so that it's generic enough that it can be for a magician, sorry, a wizard, or it can also be for a fighter. So that when you guys are creating your game, if you want to make it mana, totally cool. If you want to make it energy, totally cool. We're going to make it a little bit more generic so it can be spread in any direction. And then to have the ability hotkeys. You can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've just mocked this up, and then ABC would be menus. So basically, everything down in the bottom middle for how we implement it. But the important thing for you guys is that when it comes time for you to make your user interface, you can take this element and put it wherever you want, depending on what works for you.
Cool. So answering a Ben Pearson question there, who did this concept art? I was tempted to say, why do you think it's good or crap before I answered, but I'm just giving the answer. So Mikey did that piece of concept art there. We've moved on from then. So this is Rick's considerably uglier concept art, but this is more focused on game design decisions, as Rick's telling you. So, and that was Mikey's doodle. So.
Yep, and then the reason Ben's showing you Torchlight is a lot of the inspiration and starting points coming from there. Although for you guys who've played a lot of RPGs, you know that there's a convention now, and there's a language that players have, which is, okay, where's my health? Where's my mana? They're usually down in the bottom. Diablo has them left and right of the main HUD. And for me, it's left and right's fine. To be a little bit different, I've grouped them together so that you can see them both in one spot at a glance. And the reason they're not scattered up in different parts of the screen is when you're in the thick of combat, you need to be able to look down to all of the important things in a grouping. You don't want to look down to here to do a certain thing and then up there to do a certain thing. If you guys have played a game, Ember, which I think is an excellent RPG as well, they have things down the bottom, but then they have all the character things up at the top where you actually have to click and drag on the icons. And that's a system that doesn't work for us because we're going to have one character running around, whereas in Ember, they had 2 or 3 or 4. So as we go through the course, we're going to talk about exceptions. So we're doing it this way, but if you happen to have 2 or 3 or 4 party members, then you'd probably need to put your things in a different spot.
Cool. So who would like to know? We've done a lot of design. You said you wanted 50-50 design programming. Some of you wanted 90 programming, 10 design. Some of you wanted different ratios. Who would like me to talk a little bit about the thing that's immediately ahead of us, which is how do we move this character and how does that work technically? Because if we're taking it for granted this guy's moving around, there's a whole load of stuff going on here. We've already got a Unity prototype, a very, 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 very early prototype, but I'd like you to consider that. So it's a yes or no, and whether you want me to talk about things like line tracing, raycasting, visibility layers, shaders, and some basic coding architecture issues about how do we even get a character moving around like this. And no, it won't be exclusively click to move. We are going to also make sure this whole thing works for controller, which is going to constrain what we're going to be able to do. So with one of them in your hand, obviously the left stick, as Rick is currently wiggling, will make the guy move around like this. The right stick, we don't know yet. It's probably going to be involved in range weapon usage, and we need to try it rather than pontificate about it in order to make that work. So let's talk about how this dude is moving around. It's not as simple as you would think. In this world somewhere, in fact, I think I'm going to crack open our current Unity...
yeah, that'd be awesome looking at that.
Our Unity demo. The other problems we've had to solve, guys, are like version control, the right type of version control system. We're actually using called Plastic SCM. So while Unity loads up, I'm just going to show you Plastic SCM. We're still evaluating this as whether it's better than GitHub. There's a few reasons why it is, in our mind, better than GitHub, although we haven't used it long enough. It's not free. But the reason we're using that is because, number one, it's going to deal with larger files than Git can do. And number two, it allows locking of assets. That means that a designer like Rick or an artist like Mikey can lock a file and say nobody else can change this file. Because if you change a Unity file or an art asset, you can't merge those changes if two people make a change. It's impossible to merge, so we want to prevent it from even being possible for two people to merge at the same time. So Plastic is a multi-paradigm version control system that's so far very good, and if it passes our muster, we'll share you. Yep, we know about LFS. We tried that in the Unreal course. It's good, but it's got a couple of issues. We can't lock files. What we can do with Plastic is we can lock files in the beginning and stop other people even being able to try and edit a file that's currently checked out. It's a it's an older it's a combination of both mergeable and lockable systems. So I think Unity has finished loading. Requests couldn't be processed. We don't care about that. What I want to show you is this here. Okay, and I'm going to maximize that as well. So here we have Ethan. We've just used Ethan for now, and we have a mouse cursor. Now, a few things are already going on. The green area is obviously the ground, and what's happening with this cursor is we have to say, like, if this is somewhere that doesn't have a nav mesh on it right now, then currently the cursor shows that you can't even try and navigate there. So that's one thing we need to consider. We also need to think there's a difference between somewhere being navigatable and being reachable. So this point up there on that red, if I click there once and take my hands off, all of the movement that's happening now is pathfinding by Ethan using the nav mesh that is continuous and goes from the ground down there up to this platform. And there you go, he's completed his pathfind. And the same if I reverse the direction. So that point I clicked on was both navigatable, it has a nav mesh on it, which is pre-computed before the game ships, and it also is reachable, he can find a way there. This point up here is navigatable, but he can't actually reach it. He has no mechanism of jumping up there yet. So that's another type of thing we've got to think about. What happens if it's not reachable? Do we get rid of that? We can easily get rid of that target. We probably will. But that's something to be considered. If we dropped Ethan straight onto that point, then we would find that he would actually be able to run around on the top of that if I picked him up, grabbed him, and dropped him on there. Other things are going on. Let's switch back to the game, Torchlight. So when we click somewhere, what does clicking mean? It means I'm firing a laser through the camera. It's called line tracing or ray casting, depending on your engine. So we're firing a laser through, but how about if I click here? What's it first hit? Well, it first hit that red veil, but we've got a priority system to say, well, this is a piece of foreground art, and it's not as important as the ground below it. So you probably mean that you want to go to the ground. What happens when we go behind a rock like this? You see, if we get behind this rock, look, did you see that? It's difficult to stay there because I can't click where he can stay. You can see his feet if you look really carefully now. There you go. You see, that's clever stuff going on right there. We're making a decision that this foreground rock object shouldn't fully obscure him, that we're going to use a special shader to still display him through the rock. So we may or may not include that in the game, but we're going to need to do something like that to help you see through things. What would happen if an NPC died and landed on a loot crate, and then you click on the loot crate? Well, the first thing your line trace will hit will be the NPC. But we've got to make, again, a priority system that says, no, dead NPCs don't matter as much as loot. And loot matters more than the ground. And alive NPCs matter more than the loot. So if you've got an enemy standing in front of a loot crate, standing in front of a navigatable piece of ground, then your priority is that you attack the enemy. So lots of things to think about, not that simple. The way the movement works if I just hold the mouse button down is the same here in Torchlight as our stupidly early demo, which is that you are just on every frame reroute planning to the cursor's current position. So now I'm avoiding RSI and just holding my finger on the mouse, and that works quite well as well. So lots to think about there. There's also lots of different affordances, cursor affordances, to tell you what would happen if you were to click. So if we go and find somebody like this, the cursor stays the same, but look, there's a shader on that dude that turns him yellow. You see that? And that's based on the fact he's an NPC that we could interact with. Up the top of the screen, possibly through an event system, comes a piece of UI that says this is a Vanquisher guard, and so on. So just clicking and moving is complicated, and we've only scratched the surface. And when we introduce how do we make this compatible with a controller as well, which I actually think is really important, because one of the most important buttons to me in Steam is this one up here, which is the ability to go... I won't talk while it makes its really loud noise. The ability to go here into big picture mode and use my Steam machine or my PC like a console by operating it from the sofa downstairs. So big picture compatibility, really important to me. I think a lot of players look for it now. It's an actual badge on your games in Steam. It's going to constrain the way our control system works, but we'll crack it. And that's it, really. That's all I've got to say about the development. I'll answer questions now on line tracing, on prioritization, on YADA. And I don't know if you've seen any questions I should be answering, Rick, while I gobbed off continuously for a long period.
None. I haven't seen any specific ones in terms of the technical development of it. So now we can expect a flood of those. Lots of chat about Torchlight and people's ideas and...
So, Joran, yes, you will. If you decide to go down a procedural map route, there are ways to make sure that you can create a nav mesh for that. Of course, there's 3 types of procedural generation, 3 classes of procedural generation. You have completely offline procedural generation, so that is where you use a tool like a terrain creator to create terrain, but you get to choose which of its creations you like, you tweak it, you bake it into the game, and it was just a tool for creating assets. There's number 2, which is what Minecraft does, is it generates an entire level at load time according to a seed, and then after that, that level is fixed down, but it's not generated until the load time. And then number 3, you're actually generating on the fly. So I don't know which of those types of procedural generation you're talking about, but it is possible to deal with nav meshes in all of them. But for now, we won't be doing procedural, as Mr. Rick said in the next line.
There's a good question here, Ben, allows us to talk about a different part of our development. Will we be using asset store like Playmaker, etc.? So in terms of the core development of the game, our philosophy is to not have anything that would cost you guys money. So for us as a team, we could go and do something that's, a $10 a month thing or a $200 plugin thing. We could do that, but we're not going to. We're going to build it exactly the way you guys would. And you've told us you don't want to go and spend other money on plugins and tools and third-party things. So that's our plan at the moment. So no, we wouldn't use Playmaker unless Ben has a different idea on that. But what we might do at some point is get assistance on art assets. We're not sure yet. There's a lot of art to create in our game part of what we're doing. But everything that we're going to show you guys is replicable without having to spend money.
Absolutely. So all I'd add to that is if there's a tool that's really invaluable and we can get a deal with the people who make the tool to say, look, we've got lots of students, and if you give them this tool for free or give them the free tier of this tool or give them the cheap tier of this tool or something, if we can strike a deal and it's going to add a ton of value to the course and save you all a load of time, we'll do it. Otherwise, we won't. So
yeah, awesome. There is another thing. I'm not sure, Ben, when you wanted to get to the community part of our conversation, but when I was saying just now about art assets, that might be a good segue if that's something you wanted to talk about today. Yeah,
about what? About community art contribution?
Yes.
Yeah, all I wanted to say at this very early stage is a quick poll. And then I'll answer Joran's question because in fact, Joran, can you just clarify your question? Joran? Yeah, probably Joran. Using less physics or more interpolation. I'm not quite sure I understand what you mean there. So can you just clarify whether you're talking about character movement or whatever? That would be great. And then while you're typing that up, I'm going to ask people a question. Yes, need a bit more clarification than yes. Sorry, it's me being stupid, unless anybody else understands the question.
Less physics, more interpolation.
Will the design docs be available to the community? How soon would you like them available? Because they are available, so yes. What we've got is all of these docs are set to anyone with a link can comment. So go nuts, guys. We will give you them one at a time in the chat now. The first one is the large game design document. So the GDD, here you go. Dive in, take a look. In fact, just for satisfaction's sake, oh yes, they're also, thank you, Ben. They are on the community site in the early access section. So once you get your access to this early access section of the community site here by either changing your email address on the forum up here to the cog, change email address. It won't stop you logging in with your social login, but it will allow us to match you against the email address you use for Kickstarter and hence is now in our MailChimp. Or you ask Lucy, but try not to give her too much work to do. It'd be easier if you just change your email address and then wait a couple of days until we re-import all the emails and it matches. Then you become part of this group. Then you get access to this early access thing. Then you can see early access links. And finally, after jumping over 1 billion hurdles, you can, as Ben Pearson quite rightly said, get access to all of these things in here. So there are links in there. And I will paste the links as we go into here as well. Not there, but into the chat window, which is not there. In fact, I'm going to close that because that's not the chat window. That's the chat window. Cool. All right, so let's just catch up. And then we have another open question, which is about community art contribution, right? Have you considered developing goal-oriented action planning for AI? As necessary, rather than developing it top down, Bob, we will make the AI do what it needs to do and factor out the higher levels as we need to. So not officially by that name, but there will be goal orientated AI later on, because but very, very, very basic stuff. So moving to a point is goal orientated, right? As we need to, we'll build it up step by step. See more character move and jump on Unity forms introduction to deal with movement and gravity. See more ways to make character move and jump on Unity forms. Could there be an introduction on how to deal with movement and gravity? We will probably use Unity's built-in character controller for the character because it does enough. It deals with slopes, it deals with maximum step heights and all the rest of it. So I don't think there's any reason to go beyond that. We're trying to focus on an RPG here. And there's a lot to consider with an RPG, like when an archer with a base archery level picks up a special bow loaded with some weird arrow with fire on it that goes flying through a waterfall to hit an enemy that's wearing a type of armor that's resistant to fire bows. Oh my god, how much damage is taken? And we got to work, that's the core of what we got to work out here, and then how the hell to play tune that so it's fun. Yeah, don't worry, Chris. If you change your email, you won't get immediate access. What will happen is you change your email, then we do an email import on a regular basis. And when we do that import every few days, then you'll get access. So just bear with us. You won't miss anything by not being on there for now. We're expecting you guys to trickle in with that. So that's clear. Wow, that was lucky. I thought I was waffling. So yes or no question coming up then. Would you personally be interested in contributing either code or art assets, or play tuning or stroke play testing to the project? So you personally, not would you like to see it contributed by the community, but would you personally be willing to do it? Yes, and also have the courage to say no. And you can say, yeah, yes code, or yes. And tell us what. Yeah, so code, testing, tweaking, as in, level design. So tweaking means play tuning, art, 2D, 3D sound. No fart sounds, please.
Character dialogue.
Dialogue.
Audio.
There's an echo in here. Okay, anything. Look at you. You guys are golden. What do you say in Australia, Rick? How would you describe them?
In many lovely ways there. Golden? Yeah, golden's good.
Golden, mate.
How do we describe people in Australia? I don't know. Same way. Our language comes from England, so good question.
Prisoner Island, isn't it?
That's what they are. They're lovely.
They're amazing. Okay, that's awesome. So the way that we're going to make it possible for you to contribute is we'll have a GDD. The GDD will influence. So let's just draw this. Let's make another diagram. So I talked about the different docs we're going to have, and now I'm trying to use a real pen on a Wacom tablet. That is not working at all. So let me just change to a Wacom pen on a Wacom tablet. So we're going to have a game design document, and Rick is going to be responsible for that. I'll write the responsible person over here, and that will tell those of you who want to do things like level design. Will need that. They'll also need the art design doc, but also play tuning and all the rest of it. So you'd be reading that. That is going to influence a technical design doc, which any coders would read, coding standards, the coding architecture, all that type of stuff, and an art design doc. We're making these terms up ourselves, which Mikey's writing, and I will show you that in a minute. So if you're contributing art assets, you'd be eyes all on that. Separately, on the side here, I will be making a course design doc that doesn't actually link to anything, so I'll get rid of that arrow, which is going to be teaching this. So on the left-hand side here, we have the game. This is Mike Bridges. This is Sam Patuzzi. And this is Ben Tristram. And this is Rick Davidson. So there you go. That's how it kind of all hangs together. just in case it wasn't clear before. So if you want to contribute assets, then you'll be needing the GDD, you'll be needing the ADD. Should we talk about the ADD for a minute?
Yeah.
Yeah, copyright release for contributors. Thank you, Ninja Chimp. The basic point is, yes, we will need a copyright release. We're going to need to own the copyright of the IP for that to keep it simple, but you'll be credited for it, and your careers will be rocketed into the sky forevermore because you've added to such an amazing game.
And that's also part of why we're doing this as well, is at some point we'd like to teach you guys how to set up teams, how to work with contractors, how to partner up with other people. I know most of you listed that you're solo in terms of what you're doing at the moment, but if we go through that process of getting people to help us have input in our project, then you can see that and follow what we do in terms of contracts and paperwork and signing legal things as well.
Thank you, Rick. That would all be super helpful. So here comes the ADD link. ADD. Yes, we do have an ADD being built up. Mike's proud of his ADD. So it has a nice, you can tell he's arty. It's got a kind of nice, slightly more subtle background to it. So what we've been doing here, and Mikey can chip in if he wants to add anything, is to try and to build up this stuff here. The general art style, the art direction, the color palette, the model fidelity. But really, the first thing we did was to say, let's look, before we get into the details of that, let's look at a bunch of other games. Inspiration art first, right, Rick? That's where that was your starting point here.
High level, everything I do, well, everything we do is high level. So start right at the very, very, very top. And for me, the very, very top is player experience. We want the players to feel our game is funny, have fun, be a little bit absurd. That's right at the very top. And then we layer everything underneath that. The art direction needs to support that. So if we go dark and moody, we can do that with art, but there has to be a purpose that matches absurd and funny. So it could be making fun of dark and moody. And at the moment, Mike, who's on our chat, is pretty keen, I think, on bright and cheerful, which definitely makes sense with funny, and it makes sense with our kind of Monty Python vibes. So we're trying to find what is that inspiration? What do we look at from, references in the internet? What do we look at and say, that feels good? Yeah, that our gut tells us that direction's the right direction to go in. Not to copy, but to get inspiration from.
So that's the inspiration. And then slightly backwards at the top of the document, we then have the things that when we do get to the point of opening the doors to community art contribution, we will be telling you things like color palettes. This isn't the color palette. These are placeholders for this. Obviously, we haven't got that far in the time available yet. This isn't the character. This isn't a house. But what we're talking about here is specifics, like if you're going to generate art, as to how many triangles a particular type of character would have and all that. So that's the type of document that when it's ready for you to contribute, will be there to help you to guide you. The GDD will have sections in it talking about the story, and if you're going to create story and dialogue, then Rick will guide you as to what the guidelines are there, what the tone is, what the emotion you're invoking, and all the rest of it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So take a look at that. That's the ADD. Now the TDD. The TDD is the smallest, the technical design doc, because it takes longer to code it than it does just to write it in a document. So all we've done here is talked about some movement mechanics. Let me just make sure that this has got the right shareability, which it has, and then grab the link for you, and then come in here and just say TDD. There you go. So that's the technical design doc. So then when we talk about what the movement's going to do and what controllers are going to do, etc., then this is where we'll be sending you. We're also going to add to here things like coding standards, which I'll put in now. And there'll be a coding standards section, etc. And of course, we will have for you a nice table of contents with clickable links and so on, right? So we are going to have also an architecture, architecture discretion, something like that, and so on. So that will be the document that we're building up. These are very early, they're very live. Most of them excuse that and say that at the top of the document in the header. You're welcome to comment, you're welcome to give feedback, and that will be where we're sending you when it gets to the point that we want you to contribute technical things as well. So we'll have those docs, 4 docs, that's it, 4 total docs. They'll be live, they'll be changing all the time, they'll be only as much as they need to be, and they will keep us up to date as to where we are. Sounds like my in-laws' house. Which bit sounds like your in-laws' house, Eric?
From my 3D adventure, it's suggesting, can we have a castle dungeon with torturing and stuff?
Oh, cool.
Nearly made some jokes about Ben's place, but yeah.
So do any of you guys, Juan, I'm guessing it's Juan, or Shaolin? Shaolin Dave, I get it. Yeah, funny. Do any of you guys want to dive in on the video? Can I like turn you on and make you heary?
We have one sitting. Oh yeah, those two guys. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, they're sitting there. Or does anybody else want to join this? Let's throw it open again. That we could copy the URL. If anybody else wants to come in on Zoom, get your flipping headphones on first, please.
And turn your video on so we can see you preferably. You don't have to have video, but it'd be nice to see you guys.
It would be nice to see you. So let's get somebody else's mug, because frankly, I don't know about you, but I am bored stiff of Rick's face.
Oh boy, that hurts, Ben. Right in the.
I'm sorry. I'm just an honest type of guy I am. Oh, I'm going to do a plug here while we wait for somebody else to come. If you go to, I'm going to do an incognito search, YouTube, and if we go, I did a TED Talk. And yeah, I just wanted to show you, I did a TEDx talk, and I want to share the link because it's about learning. So here is Ben's TEDx. Take a look, share it with your friends. It's all about your learning journey and navigating your learning journey, which is pretty relevant to this. So Rick, before I close down this, is there anything else on here before we actually get Dave to share his dulcet tones with us? Is there anything else on here? I'm not going to open the controller mapping. The controller mapping has an in-joke in it, which I'm not sure is suitable for all age ranges. So we're going to leave the controller mapping completely closed right now.
I think that's shippable, that joke.
You think it's shippable? Yeah.
Well, it's an in-joke though. So this is one of the things you need to be careful about in your game. If you're making a funny game, is in-jokes are okay, but not too many of them. In-jokes mean that myself and someone else know the context of it, so find it funny, but everyone else is like, what?
Can I ask on the chat, what is the how old are you? Well, if you're under 20, how old are you? Or just how old are you? Hey, Juan, Aranda. Alvarez, I think, is the third word there, if I remember.
Yeah.
Wow, seen you around. How are you, buddy?
Fine.
Cool. Thank you for being an active community member. Didn't you have a different face last time I saw you? Am I thinking of a different Juan? I think I'm thinking of a different Juan.
No, it's me, but I have like facial hair or something.
Plastic surgery. Yeah.
I was really interesting on once we get on the developer side and design issues, or our first iteration of the design is implemented. How are we planning to do like fast prototyping and people, like setting up a group for play testers so we can actually make some changes on the fly if the gameplay is not fun and interesting or fun for the player? Because I guess from what I've read, game design is a lot about feedback.
Yeah.
So we can find that fun factor.
So actually giving you access. Sorry, Juan. So I think you're saying, how can we get the community involved in tuning and tweaking and testing this game, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So I think that it would be a bit too heavyweight to. I don't want to promise anything we can't do here, but let me stick my neck out. Sam's going to shoot me because it's going to be him ending up writing this. But I think it would be a bit heavyweight to actually give you access to the repository and then say that you check out the game and you make changes and we try and merge communities changes in. That might be a bit much, a bit too much like an open source project, a bit too much like hard work. Maybe possible, but there may be an intermediary. Now, when it comes to play tuning and play tuning matrices, and like there's a load of figures like what does this damage do to that, or how fast does this character move, or is they the sort of things you're talking about tuning? Because there's two things. There's bugs here. There's like, can you guys help us to play test, which frankly is a bit of a crap job, but it's really important, and to see if there are bugs. That would be really helpful. Sam is out for dinner with his family. He's got a lovely family. They've come to visit, and yeah, he's not sleeping. So yeah, Eric, take care. And the other thing is the play tuning. When it comes to play tuning, something I would like to see done, but either I'm going to have to bully Sam into doing it or write the code myself, is I would love it if our play tuning spreadsheets were Google Sheets. And if the game could actually read, using Google's new Sheets API, direct from the Google Sheet, the current play tuning parameters, and then as a community we could discuss and tweak on there, potentially. Or on a community tab of that. So like, here's a community arrived matrix of play tune values, and you can all, so that would be cool if we can do it. And then for the actual shippable game, you take the Google Sheet and you bake it into the game. So I would like to see that happen. I think that'd be pretty unique. What do you think, Rick?
I have a question for one. Were you talking about about how we will go about getting feedback on the game that we make. That's the representative for what you guys are going to do. Are you talking about your specific game when you're working on your game, how you should go about getting feedback and what mechanisms might be there for you?
No, on the game you guys are doing.
Okay, got it.
Because you're mentioning that, well, a lot of what I guess we came here to learn is how to work as team, because it's nowadays to make a game, a lot of it has to do with a team. In general, with software development, it's about working as a team and how to divide tasks and how to optimize the communication and work towards the product. So there's going to be your vision of the game, and you were asking about contributors to the project as coders. How we gonna be able to provide you with the design you were thinking of? Mostly,
Gotcha.
I'm trying to get here is more about the development process on how to work with teams. So you guys are having, like, you already have a core team, and you're kind of asking for other developers to come in, and what I want to kind of witness is you as a core team, how you doing the design process. You're kind of asking for other developers to come in.
Oh, here a big echo. Someone who's coming to the chat's got their mic super loud. Okay, cool. Yeah, I'll do a first answer to that, Ben, if you like, and then I guess you can bounce from there. Is for us, what we're trying to do is be very transparent with how we're working as a team so that you can watch it and learn from that. So when we talk about community involvement, we'd love for you guys to provide elements that can go into the game, and there'll be a little bit of team conversation there. And that'll be a challenge for us. We haven't figured out exactly how it will work yet, but to say, here is the box for you guys to work within, do something brilliant within the box. And so when you start a project, if you're the owner of the project, if you're the vision holder, then I think it's important for you to say, here's the vision I believe in. It's a good vision. People haven't said it's awful. It's locked in stone. For the rest of the project, the vision is locked. And then people know what they're working towards. So for us, we'll have, here is the art vision. Like, this is the rules of the art. Go crazy in terms of that. Here's the level design vision and the level design rules. Go crazy within that. And when you're talking about specific development and creating code, that's something that Ben, I'm not sure how you would say, here's the box. Can you guys create something within this box?
Yeah, well, that's in code. That's almost the easiest. That's called an API. That's not a problem. So Juan, is that answering your question, or are you more asking, are we going to teach you how to work as a team?
No, I just want to witness how you guys go into the development process, so I can see how you guys are working as a team.
Okay, so let me just reiterate something then, so our main goals for this year. Our three primary goals are: number one, to ship the RPG to the Steam Asset Store. Number two, to ship the course. So that's going to be, it could be more than one course required, but ship the course is required to deliver the Kickstarter. And number three, to build our 2020 syllabus. Oh, wow, writing's frustrating. All right, so there are three things. The 2020 syllabus I'm going to link you to now. It's here, and it's got very little in it right now, so I warn you. But what it is a doc that as we become consciously aware of the things that the order in which we would have to teach you how to, for example, operate as a team or coordinate or share files or use Trello, we will be putting it into this, and our 2020 vision will start coming clear. But we're not going to ship all that content. But we are going to be capturing what we learn. And then when we finish with the RPG this year or next, we will then come back and really start to fill out our base of courses. So you will get that stuff. It may be a little bit after the RPG. We can't put it all in the RPG because it would just be impossibly long. But we won't lose it, and you will get it from us after that. Because what we have right now, as I've said before, is we have an incomplete base of courses. Remember, our new idea is that we have design over here, design, business, personal design, personal development, marketing, all of that in this slice. We have development in general, shaders, coding, architecture, the whole lot. And then over here we have art, which means 2D art, 3D art, etc. All right, so we've got that as the base. The RPG sits on top of this. It's a layer on top of the whole cake, right? And the only part of that base that currently exists is two things. It's Unity, so you learn C#, and it's Blender, which will be changed in the long run into a very game-focused course, but that sits there. We don't have anything designed, but by the end of the RPG, you'll have a course with Rick and I on design. Almost certainly it's looking like that. But we will be building that syllabus as we do the RPG. And then we know that the syllabus contains everything that we need in order to solve all of the problems that you've got, from Google Docs through to finances, through the whole lot eventually. But obviously we can't teach you all that overnight. It's going to take time. That's why we're doing the RPG now, is to make sure we become, per my TED Talk, to make sure we become consciously aware of everything that a complete beginner would need to know in order to get the job done, as an individual and as a team of up to, several people.
Awesome.
So that is that. There's a load of stuff around process, around naming conventions, around Google Docs, around version control, around Trello. I'd like to open Trello. I'm a little bit concerned about opening it because I'm aware that every frame is... Hang on, let me see if I can just do something.
You mean open to show it on camera?
I want to open it, but I don't want to show you everybody Trello in case... I'm not sure you can... Can you turn it off? That works. There you go. In a second, my screen will go black. That's good. And then I can open up all my naughty websites. Oh, you wanted to know the in-joke. Rick, we can tell them the in-joke about the freaking controller mapping, can't we?
I think we can, and I think you own that, because this is you who has a passion for this character. This is Ben's. Ben wants to see this character in the game so bad. I'm telling you.
I do. So I'll tell him about that in a second. Rick, can you put it back onto the controller mapping drawing? Because I have taken it off in case we talk to them.
Can I put it back on the controller mapping diagram? Oh, I see. You took it off the dock?
Yeah. Just in case I shared it with people. Meanwhile, I can tell that my screen has gone black. Don't worry. Do not adjust your sets. This is normal. I'm then going to open Trello really briefly. And then I'm going to show you our Trello focused on the RPG, because you're starting to ask questions about that type of thing. And then we'll carry on. In fact, I better go back to my slideshow to remind me what the hell I should be talking about, because I know what I am talking about. But there's that. Back to OBS. It's all very rough and ready. Now I need to transition OBS, which I've never used before. I'm doing well for a first time. You've got to give me that. Here you go. Here is our Trello Scrum board focused purely on the RPG. In fact, there's not a huge amount here. We've got a massive board, and not much of it looks like it's about the RPG. But what we're doing, and we will later, not in the RPG, be telling you about how you can use this type of process even if you're working on your own. Even for stuff I'm doing on my own, I use this type of thing. It's agile. It's the basis of things called stories. You talk about what's going to get done and how big each of these things are. And then they go from backlog to a sprint. The sprint lasts a week or two. You get them done in the sprint. And they go off to doing. And then from doing, they get done. And we've actually got some really clever other stuff going on here, which is tracking the amount of time things spend in these doing columns. And we're working out things like velocities based on that. Something you can read if you're interested in being able to predict how much work you're going to be able to do in a particular amount of time, is have a look at statistical based estimates, I think it is. So Joel Spolsky, I'll look it up. And it's statistical evidence-based scheduling. That's what it is. That's what you want. Have a look at evidence-based scheduling by Joel. I'm going to make this a bit smaller. I'm going to paste it in here, EBS. And what we've done is, using Trello and Google Sheets and a bit of Google Code, we are gathering real evidence about how fast we can. Why does this matter? This is potentially boring as hell. But it actually isn't boring as hell, because the big problem with working on your own or working in a team is it's quite easy to say, we're going to get something done, right? We're going to make an RPG. Great. If you then say, when? Well, I can say, well, okay, by the end of the year. If you now try and pin me down to the third thing, the cost, quality, time triangle, and you say, oh, and exactly what are you going to build? I'm like, oh, I'm scared. Because I'm happy to say we'll build an RPG by Christmas, but I'm scared stiff if you ask me to tell you exactly what's going to be in it, because now I've got to know my speed. It's a bit like me saying to you, hey, you walk across your country to the other border of your country. Could you do it? You go, yeah. I say, could you do it in, how long is it going to take you? If you went on foot, you're going to go, oh, God, hang on, let me walk a few days, check it out, and then I'll tell you, right? If you're going to get somewhere on time, you need to know your velocity. And most people have no idea how fast they're getting work done. And what this article will tell you about is we're actually measuring every task, how long it's taking, and we're getting evidence about the velocity. Let me just tell you a quick anecdote. If you think it's going to be useful, Rick, is it useful for me to give the anecdote about the crunch week and how this can reverse your psychology on it?
Sure. Yep.
So briefly, think of this. You're in the last week of a game project, and you're going to ship it to a store, and it has to go, right? It has to go on that date. And as in the past, as a team, you do things called story points in Agile. It doesn't really matter what that means for this conversation. It just is an indication of how fast you're getting stuff done, right? Let's say over the last 3 years of development, you guys as a team, or maybe it's you or you and your art partner, have been doing 100 story points per week on average. And you've got 1 week to go. But some weeks you've done 50, you're not done so well. And 1 week you did 200, you rocked it. It's quite easy to have a conversation and go, hey guys, this is the last week, we're going to crank it. Let's go for 200 and kick this baby home. Yeah. But the problem with that is that if this is the probability distribution that you've gathered, oh no, wrong color, that color's real ugly. Let's go for a nicer color. And I'm not even going to try and make a straight line. Oh, look at that, that's pretty. Okay. And this is the number of points, which tells you how much work you get done. And I'm telling you that you have a modal value of 100, and that we're saying that the number of weeks that this happened in, and you've got some sort of histogram. And I'm not going to draw it as a histogram because it takes too long. But what we're saying is that this happened. There are a few weeks where you did 200 points, and there are a few where you did 50, right? Now, it may be that the evidence is there's only a 5% chance you can do 200 points in that week. Why on earth would you aim for that when it's so critical? Whereas if you want to ship something and you know what you're going to ship, you might be better going, the evidence is actually we've got a 95% chance of doing 50 points. Why don't we scope 50 points in this last week and do them properly? And then if we get halfway through the week or the sprint and decide, hang on a minute, we could get more done, then maybe you take the risk of doing another one. So without that evidence about how fast you've actually got work done in the past, you've got a problem. And that's what this is all about. So that's all built into our process. And we'll be teaching you that not during the RPG, but in the future. But we all talk about it in these live streams with you guys, and also we'll be talking about it, alluding to it in the course itself. I need to get back on stream because we have been going ages. That's the thing with these live streams, they're fun. We've melded the half an hour of questions into the hour of live stream. So if you want to leave, guys, I understand that. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip over to this screen and keep us on track. So hopefully you understand what will be covered in the course stroke game. We've pitched our current game concept. We've got some feedback on the art direction. Let's just get a quick poll on the art direction. Guys, dark or light? Dark or light world?
And when you say dark, you're talking about dark, evil, that like literally it's dark, it's not bright daytime, but dark and evil and demons and that kind of serious Diablo kind of stuff. And light is more of think of The Witness, think of what we're looking at, Torchlight. It's the trees have a brightness to it. They're not all dead, dark, dead, evil, Satan kind of stuff versus bright, cheery, open world, birds, not open world, sorry. We're not doing open world, but bright and open.
Yeah. So we're getting a combination. We're getting a little bit more light than dark. I agree with the comment that there's too much dark these days. This doesn't really matter. This doesn't change the game you make and the impact you have on the world. We would rather make light for this one.
What do you, sorry to interrupt, Ben, what do you guys think about having something that's predominantly light, predominantly, has a brightness to it, but then having moments within that are dark. So you do go down into, I forget whose in-laws it was, but you go down into their dungeon basement and get tortured down in there. So to exaggerate the points, we can turn down the darkness and have it a little bit moodier, but overall the theme of the world is not post-apocalyptic, it's more sort of natural.
Yeah, you see, now that's hard to argue with, right? If we're giving them a choice between dark, light, and wonderful contrast artistically used to great effect, then they're obviously going to go for the last. So predominantly right with some dark to keep those guys happy, and you do what you like. How's that sound?
Yeah, and also I'm seeing a lot of people in the chat here that might be volunteering to help make us some dark and moody assets to put in the dungeon. So part of the community involvement.
Great. And the point is that the process will show you in the game design part of this will be, this is the mood and the feel you're going for, and this is how you get there. So it doesn't really matter which one we choose. We got to make some decisions and stick with them. We're going to get a very confused game if we're going to make it dark and light and happy and sad and left and right and up and down and in and out and shake it all about. Yeah. So talking about shaking it all about, the in-joke was this. I got a very funny update on the RPG controller mapping. So I made a very simple thing that just took an Xbox controller, and all I did was label the left stick as moves the character, because that's all we'd decided, and I closed the document. I'm like, that's all we know for now, right? And I get an update on Google from Rick saying, I didn't see the document, I just saw an update saying, I think we've pretty much finalized the controller setup now. I'm like, what the hell is he talking about? Has he mapped every button on an Xbox controller already? This dude's a legend. So I open this thing, and it's left stick, move, screen relative, and he's gone and said, right, the right stick, here it is, looks like control scheme is pretty much final. Willy helicopter. It's like, how immature is that? We're talking about doing a willy helicopter, which is as bad as it sounds, with the right stick. I mean, is this what we want our character doing? Who wants the character knocking enemies out with his willy with the right stick? Or is that just too silly? So we're all over 18 here. We've all got a head in our hands. What we need is Willy Helicopter taking it too far or not? So we want to go, no-go on the Willy Helicopter inclusion in the game.
Rick sounds like a villain in that story.
He does. I'm the villain. Before this...
Why did Rick write Willy Helicopter on the controller?
It must be something to do with being Australian and crude. Because I clearly am the archetypal English gentleman.
It's definitely British humor. We don't say that in Australia.
Look, guys,
are there any English folks on the call? You guys say Willy Helicopter.
I'm innocent, right? I mean, these guys know that I'm an archetypal British gent. I drink tea on live streams. They know that it's only since you joined that this type of stuff comes out. So it's nothing to do with me. I hold my hands in the air. I've never sworn in my life.
And just to be super, super transparent for you guys that are horrified and like ready to quit and turn off, our goal is not to go for South Park style toilet humor. The goal is to go for intellectual Monty Python humor. If you look at the humor in Monty Python, there's a lot of, smart humor. So it's not going to be a whole bunch of Willy jokes. That was just our in joke at the moment. But there may be a character called Willy Helicopter running around. He's certainly...
Or William Helly or something like that with his...
And you guys will know, if you see William Helly, you'll know what it's about. But there will be no phallic chalice swinging. So don't, never fear.
Yeah, I mean...
you guys want to do that, that's up to you.
You guys know about this game, right? That got through muster. That made it onto actual stores and stuff. I don't quite know how they did that or... But anyway. Right, should we change topics completely, Rick? Yeah, please keep it clean. Yeah. So look, I respect anybody saying we should keep it clean. I think we can do clever humor without needing to be too... Yeah, exactly. You know whose humor I quite like? As Tim Minchin. Even though he's Australian, it's probably the only good thing that came out of Australia. This dude who looks a bit funny, but he's brilliantly clever in... What's that, Rick? What are you disagreeing with?
There's two other guys that people can see. If you guys want to just shake your head and tut when Ben says something nasty about Rick, I'd appreciate that as well. And the TED Talk that Ben showed before, feel free to go on there and write comments. Good talk. Please stop picking on Rick and Australians. I think that would be much appreciated if you guys could do that.
Yeah. So yeah, Tim Minchin's humor. So who has ever heard of Tim Minchin before? By a poll. Okay. And then
his songs, it's all about his songs, right? His stand-up isn't as strong as his songs. His songs rock.
Yeah, they do rock. And you see, because we've got ideas like, we can have quests like the fallacy of sunk costs, or we could have Occam's razor, could be some quest where some guy's got this crazily overcomplicated explanation for something very simple. Occam's razor could be an achievement or whatever, these type of things. So we're thinking that we had a crazy ideas thing. It's probably in your GDD, isn't it, Rick? So slightly more intellectual humor, observations about the emperor's what is it? New clothes and mass delusion and all this type of stuff.
Inventory item you get, the emperor's new clothes. That'd be cool.
Exactly. So that's just kind of where we're going. So hopefully you like the overall theme, and we're going to keep it fun because programming architectural decisions about this stuff's boring, right? So, well, it's not boring. It's fun in here, but it's boring to people out there. So let's keep it fun inside and out. Right, let's go back. Is there anything else? Discuss community contribution. We've done that enough for now. You'll hear from us when it's time for you to help. Questions, and if there's any other questions, then I'm happy to have them. So let's switch it out into this type of mode, whereby we have, if any of you want to speak, anybody else wants to come in, we're going to give you the Zoom link one last time. Anybody wants to leave the live stream, we're going to minimize the value flow now so that those of you who want to go can go. I'm going to click every button on here except the right one and eventually get the right one. Okay, so join us, question mark there. Join Zoom, make sure you've got headphones, come in. If Juan wants to say anything, Dave, do you want to speak?
Yes, hopefully not getting too far ahead, but it looked like the battle systems are mostly going to be Diablo, Torchlight, kind of action RPG style. Is there going to be anything else in there for more like a Ultima Final Fantasy turn-based or tactical style battles?
It's going to be difficult to do turn-based and real-time properly at the same time, but I would hazard to say that by the time you get to the end of the course, you're not going to find it difficult to work out how to make it turn-based, because the way that we're going to talk through your architectural decisions, etc., I think that I would be very disappointed, and you can be the guy in the community who keeps me true on this, Dave, is that if by the end of the course you can't work out how to implement turn-based, then I've not done my job right teaching it, and I will put a little supplemental section in or something that helps people with that. But my preference would be that it's taught in a way that it's very easy for you guys to work out how you would do it turn-based if you want to. Because we can't really make a game that's real-time and turn-based and up and down and black and white. As we've said, it's not going to be a game then. The worst thing we can do is try and make something that pleases everybody, that's a mishmash, that's not actually a good game. So hopefully, does that answer your question?
Yeah, sounds perfect. Thank you.
No worries.
Good question.
Has
Now,
anybody
who
else,
else?
either people with a face or people with fingers on the chat, got questions?
While we're waiting for questions as well, if you guys have any feedback on this format of conversation, obviously there's a lot of technical stuff that doing this for the first time in this particular format's a little bit messy, but is this good? You guys like having this sort of input? Are there other things you'd like to see? Do you care about what we're doing in this early stage of the project? Is it interesting to learn about the course? Any feedback as well helps us a lot so that next time when we do this, we can be even more on point.
How we design the maps, Rick? You can speak. So Kevlar. Do you mean technically, or do you mean from a design point of view? So just clarify, and then we can decide who answers.
And when you say maps, do you mean mini map, meta map, game levels? Yeah, a little bit more details would be cool on that one. And if you guys that are sitting in Zoom, if you want to go on screen, just raise your hand. I didn't know you could raise hands. Dave's got his hand raised.
So Jim, you're asking about, you're on the forum, but you can't see the links. So if you're on the forum, what needs to happen is everybody from the public, if you're public and we're on the forum, so community.GameDev.tv, so GDCS. If you're public on the forum and you're not in the early access group, you're going to see this, Unity RPG. You're going to go in there, you're going to look around and go, where on earth is it? If you're seeing this, then you're not yet in the early access group. If you're on the forum and you're seeing this, where you see an early access with a lock sign on it, then you go in there and you say early access links, and then you can find it. Why is everything highlighted? So if you're not seeing this early access back at this level, at GameDev.tv community there, that link I'll paste, then it's because you're not in the group. The way you get in the group is number one, click here, click there, change your email address that you use on the forum to the email address that you use on Kickstarter or that we send you emails to via MailChimp. If that doesn't work, message Lucy, who is here, via the forum. I think we've said that a few times, but I appreciate people come and go. Rick, what have I missed in the chat, mate?
Tons of questions. Will you cover how to put the GDD, TDD, ADD together? Yes, I think that would be part of the early parts of the course where we show you a little bit of that structure.
Yeah, we'll show you the results of those without going too much into the process of how we made them, because they will be in the underlying courses that we will build later. But yeah.
And they'll be there as a template as well, so you guys can see the sections that we've used and follow them. what I probably will talk a little bit about is how I'm going to deviate from the GDD. And we've already been talking about this as a team. Personally, I don't like big GDD documents. That's really applicable for big teams, but we're a small team and you guys are going to be a team of, 1 or 2 or 3. You don't need to create a gigantic GDD. You just need to have enough so you know what to build, because you're building a game and you're shipping a game. You're not shipping a document. And often we lose sight of that.
Wonderful.
Please show us books. Few people asking about books. I've looked around a lot for books that are specifically about RPGs, and there's a lot of resources online about creating paper and pencil RPGs, Dungeons and Dragons for a good starting point. So if you're looking at the mechanics and the machinery of it, there's a lot out there in terms of how to design a good video game RPG. There's not a lot, particularly in terms of books, which is partially why you guys asked for this course to be created, because there's not a lot out there. I think if you're looking from a game design point of view, I'm a really big fan of, I've got it just here, The Art of Game Design by Jesse Schell, which is taking you to the next level of being a designer, which is trying to get you to understand the intuitive side of being a designer, the gut and the feeling and the experience and how it all fits together. So I like it. It's not just about mechanics. It's a lot more about you starting to become a designer by feel, which I think is really neat. So that's a book I've got to recommend.
Thanks, Rick. So we've got a few more people participating in Zoom, but not participating in Zoom. So if Bryant or Miss Stowe want to join in, you're welcome to come in with your faces and things. I've got a couple of questions I want to answer here. Oakley, game design patterns, all the ones we need, Oakley. So Sam and I today have been discussing things like the observer pattern for example, all these cursor affordances. The cursor is constantly raycasting into the world and getting a list of things that it passes through that transparent tree and then that object and that loot chest. And then how do cursor affordances and shaders and things that need to make some changes based on what they're hitting, how do they know? How do you prioritize all this? Probably through something called the observer pattern. We're almost certainly going to be using a service locator pattern at some point in there. We'll be using event systems. There'll be a bunch of patterns from game programming patterns. Let me put that in as another link for you. Probably tomorrow now, realistically, I will go through and put these links into the YouTube video description for you. But there's Game Programming Patterns. Great book. Entire thing's available online, worth getting it on paper. Rob Mead, thank you for being here, Rob. Nice to see you.
Hi, Rob.
I had another question. Things like grappling hooks, there was a thing up there. Possibly, but let's see. Let's see where our game goes. Again, the general principles of making a kind of special item will be in there. Right, I'm going to start thinking we need to be winding this up fairly soon.
Yeah.
So
We'll be here forever, couldn't we?
We could be here forever. It's fun, but I've got family downstairs I want to see. I've got sleeping to do, so I'm awake tomorrow.
There is one last aspect, just super quickly. A question: do you plan to teach us how to make things look pretty by playing with light, shaders, etc.? That's a good one. It's also probably good to see get people's input on their interest in general art creation versus we polled for development versus design, but we didn't ask about art and how many people are, what depth of understanding they're looking for in terms of art. So
let me clarify that, and then we can ask a couple of specific questions. So one is, some of you know the Blender course. The Blender course was built as a course about how to make 3D models in Blender. In the long term, in our 2020 vision, it will be a course about making 3D models for games. So the difference will be that you make the model. We talk about vertices, edges, faces, shading, materials, etc. And then when it comes to rendering and assembling your actual materials, nodes, and all that, that would happen over in the game engine in the new course. We need a 2D art course at some point. How do you do concept sketches, 2D art, pixel art, etc.? So here's a poll for you. Who would like... well, there's not really any point in asking you this here. This is not the place. The place to ask you this stuff is, for you guys to participate on that, as you probably know about, is voting.GameDev.tv. So why don't you go there and have a look at what we've got on the horizon. The general plan is a 2D course, 2D art course would be a good thing. Now, shaders. Shaders are not really art. They are... but they would be in our dev segment under a tech art segment, shaders, procedural generation, and that's where you need to make code make something look pretty. That's a weird combination of art and coding. We will have to be doing some shader programming because, as we showed you in Torchlight, when the character highlights like that, that's special shader programming. So let's take shader programming as an example. We will import shader code that we have written to highlight the character. We will briefly show you the shape of the shader code, the structure of it, and we will show you how to integrate that into the game. What we will not do is teach you shader programming from scratch in this course, because that is going to be a whole course on its own. It's completely different. What you can do, and it's a repeat of a link I've given you before, is to go look at shadertoy.com. And if you look at some of these things and then marvel at the little amount of code that actually generates this. So this thing here has got no raster channels coming into it, actual data. Everything you see here and all my ability to move it in these ripples that are being rendered is just from this 3,000 characters and less than 230 lines of code. So shaders are incredibly cool. But it's a completely and utterly different way of programming. With shaders, you basically can only write code that it basically can't look at the state of pixels next to it. You have to write it's multi-data single instruction. You've got millions of pixels on the screen, and you need to issue an instruction to all of those separately and allow them to do their thing without reference to other pixels, so that everything can happen in parallel. And it's a very different programming paradigm. So we won't teach you that, but we will write shader code and we will import it, and we will create the pain for you and say to you, guys, go and vote on the shader course that doesn't exist yet, and then as soon as we can, we'll build it. So hopefully that answers that. Shaders are black magic, absolutely, but there will be white magic by the time we've finished with you. But give us time. And look, I should just probably wind up with what the hell's GameDev.tv? Where are we going? What's the deal? So it started by me. Mikey and Sam are really, really deeply embedded in it. Known Mikey for years. I keep sacking him and making him redundant and screwing him over, and he keeps coming back and working with me. I love the guy. I've been working with him for years. I suspect that he'll still be with me when we're old geezers in the old people's home. So Mike will be around. Sam's likely to be around for a while. Rick and I are just getting to know each other. We've only known each other for a few weeks. We've got to the point of insulting each other heavily, which is a good sign. So we're kind of at 4. Now, it turns out from some work of a chap called Darren Sherlaw, a friend of mine, has done, that there are what we call meta-stable points in a company. This is worth remembering. It's fairly statistically and mathematically well supported that a team of 4 is a good sustainable size, but 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 hard. Communication lines are weird, and something magical happens at 12, and I'm not entirely sure why. There's a statistical clusters about where companies live and die at 4, at like 1 and 2, 4 and 12, and 18 beyond that, I think it is. So we're at 4 people right now, yeah? And the number of communication lines we've got, every time we add another person, goes up roughly to the square of the number of people. And my plan is we consolidate at 4, and if we need to, because you guys are wanting all this content, you want shaders, you want 2D art, you want music composition, and I'm like, wow, we haven't got the time, then at some point we may kind of make that jump to 12, which is where we have a GameDev.tv instructor platform that allows people to come on and join us quicker, but we need to keep the quality and keep the team right. So for the moment, it's just me, Lucy, Sam, Mikey, and Dave is getting more and more involved with us. Rick is getting more and more involved with us all the time. No, Lucy's absolutely part of the team. She's full on. She's amazing and vital. She's not one of the content producers, which is why I'm excluding her from this conversation, because she's not able to deliver or willing or wanting to deliver the courses. She is doing, making everything else work for us. So, hopefully that explained it, Lucy. You know that you are one of the most important people in the team. You're just not making the courses. Anyway, enough about that. Lucy now hates me. That's fine. Guys, I think we've come probably to a natural close here. I think we've covered everything. I think we've been about as long as we said we're going to, plus a bonus amount. 2 things I'd like from you. Number 1 is feedback. What did we do well in this? Just tell us what we did well. I know what we did badly. But just tell us what we did well, what went well in this live stream, what did you like so that we can do more of it. This is a debriefing format, by the way, an overly positive debriefing format. It's what went well and what could we do better. So my first question is, what went well? And with a delay, I'm not getting any response, but we will. We try not to be too fluffy and positive. I really called somebody at Udemy when they said to me, hey, Ben, we are sunsetting this feature of Udemy. I said, hang the hell on. You came from Brixton in London, dude, and you're telling me, now that you spent time in California, that you call ripping out a feature that we all love sunsetting, so it sounds positive? I'm like, give me a break. What you mean is you're U-turning, scrapping it, ditching it. Let's be honest here. But so we're trying to avoid that. But we are going to go for a positive. What did we do well? And what can we do better? So you like the polls, the demos, the chat interaction, in spite of the delay. I did click the box on YouTube that says don't delay things, but it still did. Questions, lots of questions, shared stuff, links, details, smiles need to be bigger. Wallace and Gromit. Yeah, thank you for building the community. You guys built it. You guys went everything. I've been receiving email from community. Email from. Yeah. So what I'm saying, Danny, is that if you change your email on the forum to the email, you won't suddenly get access to the early access thing. We need to do an import to make that happen. Lucy, if you're listening, maybe you could do the import from MailChimp like every 5 minutes for the next week. So, okay, cool. So that's what we did well. What could we do better? Apart from the stream starting on time.
Yeah, apart from all the technical hiccups.
No, including that. So what can we do better?
Oh.
And we must smile more, Rick.
Yeah.
How do we do a genuine smile, though, rather than one that looks like we kind of ourselves?
It's hard when you're making fun of me. I'm just, most of the time I'm feeling quite sad and morose.
Well, we're both quite easy to upset, so.
Yeah.
How does the personal coaching work? Coordinate through Lucy, and if you've paid for personal coaching, we will speak to you on Skype. And
we'll be around at your house in the morning.
Yeah, not quite.
Please have some tea and biscuits ready.
Yeah. So, obviously, with that nearly 200,000 students, our time is we've got to be really careful how much time we spend with each person. So, we love spending time with people en masse. We just don't have the time to spend a lot of time on each individual unless you're doing things like these personal coaching packages. And we're generally not doing a lot of that stuff because we like to be accessible to everybody. So we're kind of a one-to-many type peoples. So what could we do? Less creepy smiles. Oh, now you see we can't win. Smile. Stop smiling. What we need is genuine smiles, but then we have to be genuinely happy, and we're not. We're miserable inside, so that's never going to happen. Well, if I can speak for you, because you look miserable. But maybe I should just insult you live. Is that going to be good entertainment? Or is that the lowest form of wit?
I think you did a couple of times.
Really?
I don't know. We're just playing around, you guys. This is all part of the. If you're not from England or Australia, then I've spent the past 10 years of my life, 12 years of my life in Canada, and the Canadians have a different sense of humor to the Australians and to the English. So this kind of playful calling each other idiots doesn't quite resonate as well in North America as it does for us wacky English Australians. So it's all good.
Yeah, so that access to the forum, thanks, Rick. I mean, Rob, obviously, if anybody knows the forum, they know Rob. He just is the master of the forum. He's our star moderator. In fact, we just do what Rob says on the forum. Rob tells us what to do, we do it. It's as simple as that. There's no mechanistic way for us to securely add early access backers that doesn't involve all this crappy email stuff or you messaging Lucy. So just change your emails and message Lucy. And Lucy will keep doing the import, won't you, Lucy? I don't know if you're listening, Lucy, but do the import lots. Discord, everybody asked for Discord. I don't know why Discord's good, but you've asked so much, I think we're going to have to try it. We tried Slack. We weren't quite sure what all the fuss was about. We are a healthy team, by the way. Don't worry. We just ripping the piss is part of what we do. Yeah, exactly, Chris. It's because I like him. Ultimately, I don't. Oh no, he heard that. Okay, guys. I think we enjoy the chat. I think my voice is going, and we need to wind it up. So we'll let you know when the next one's out. It won't be too long. That's it. No point in asking you whether the time of day is any good, because that's what you call selection bias. You're here, so obviously the time of day is good for you.
Yeah.
So that's it.
The one thing we didn't cover in today's thing, Ben, because we don't know it, is when the first part of the course will be rolled out. I don't recall us mentioning that. It might just be a good way to wrap up with expect to have something on Udemy in the next 12 months.
Yeah, no, this month, I think that we will give you something on Udemy to start, and you know how we make our courses. You consume them as we produce them. It's called lean production. We will aim to do that, to get something out to you this month. Don't hold us to it if it goes into the first week or two of February, but we will aim to start shipping into Udemy soon, because I don't want all this value now. There's a couple of weeks of value is fine. Then I start getting nervous. I'm like, oh, this is what we call inventory. You know, it's unshipped to you guys. So. All right, good night, everybody. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, you're late. Yeah, hi, Michael. You're kind of a little late, but it's all recorded, so
That's
enjoy.
Good timing.
And we'll see you all, guys, when you are older.
Thanks, you guys.
Bye.